Diglett, ladies and gents, Pit Swordmaster here, and my good friend Loka. And today we're doing a fairly simple video, just a retrospective on all the episodes of Death Battle 24. All 4 of them, because, well, Rooster Teeth kind of went up in flames. Yeah, been a bit of a hectic year as a Death Battle fan, but hey, we still got some good stuff in the end, I like to think.
I will say, regardless of the quality of the episodes, this is one of the most interesting quote-unquote seasons we've ever had.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be funny. Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, partly because of just the fact that not only is it, like you said, just 4 episodes, but it's also entirely fan-founded.
Yeah. But this was definitely a scary year to be a Death Battle fan, but if nothing else, seeing just everyone band together and fund this entire fucking show for the next couple of years in the span of 20 minutes, for as divisive a community as we can be, that's definitely an accomplishment.
Yeah, it is nothing short of incredible. They asked for like 75,000 and we raised 10 times that.
Yeah. Which also begs the question, where the fuck are most Versus fans getting that much money from?
I don't know, I wish I was one of them.
Yeah. Anyways, don't think there's much else to really say, so we can just hop right into the first episode. Omni-Man versus Bardock. The first season premiere to happen in October. This episode is so funny when they first announced it outside of the Kickstarter, because they just had no fanfare for this one. Like, they just said, oh, we're going to announce what the first episode of this year is going to be in the cast, and as soon as they got around to it, they were like, oh, by the way, it's Omni-Man vs. Bardock.
I mean, I feel like that might just be because, let's be honest, everyone knew it was gonna be that.
Yeah, fair enough.
That was just the most obvious choice. Like, Dragon Ball episode plus Invincible is gonna be relevant for the next 10 years. Omni-Man is by far its most popular character.
And let's also not forget the fact that, like, even in the initial promo for the Kickstarter, the episode looked very close to completion already.
Yeah, like, Bowser vs. Eggman didn't have a background, but this did, so...
Literally, I think the only difference between this and the initial promotion was that, for some reason, Bardock didn't have his bandana in that.
Yeah, I remember that. I think it might have had something to do with just, like, the physics of the bandana being different to his other... like, the other parts of his model. Because it is a removable asset, like, it's from fighters, so in the... maybe, like, just because he puts it on in, like, his opening animation in the game, that might be a different asset to his normal model, I don't know. Yeah,
it makes sense. Honestly, for the first episode that happened this year after, like, a nearly 10-month wait, just the initial 3 weeks before the episode happened was, like, surprisingly uneventful, all things considered. At least for, like, my experience, I'd imagine yours as well.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I feel it might just be that all of the speculation for and talk about this episode, like this matchup, happened, like, just immediately after it was confirmed. And then after a while, people just didn't have much to say on it. It's kind of a basic matchup. Yeah.
I think the only thing I really, like, ended up doing in relation to the matchup was literally nearly right when it was about to come out, when I decided to actually finally sit down and watch Season 2 of Invincible, which was really great, by the way. And when I happened to see, I think it was you and Chris trying to watch Father of Goku, and subsequently episode Bardock.
We watched Father of Goku because Chris wanted me to see it, and then while we were watching it, we were like, you know what, let's watch the bad one too.
Yeah. And that experience was so funny, because it was kind of the rare time where, because usually, like, these wait periods end up making me appreciate the characters more, they make my opinion change on them at all. This ended up doing the exact opposite in the case of Bardock, because I just came out thinking, this guy's just kind of auraless.
Yeah, it is so interesting that like, I haven't seen season 2 of Invincible, but I did watch the first one when it came out, and I really liked Nolan. And I've always ever since then I've just kind of been a fan of him, not like a super fan, but like yeah, I like this character. I didn't know Bardock as anything other than just Goku's dad. And then Chris was like, "Oh, Bardock's really bad. Besides this one thing that we should watch," and I watched it. I was like, I don't know. I think he kind of sucks.
Like, it's not even, like, hateable or anything. He's just kind of lame.
Yeah, like, there's nothing wrong with Bardock as a character, but, like, I don't feel like he should be a focused-on character.
Well, I guess technically there is something wrong in the sense that they can't make up their fucking mind what they want to do with him, but I guess it's not really his fault, is it?
Yeah, like, I feel like his popularity, especially something that was shown after the episode came out, but, you know, we'll get there.
Yeah.
I feel like his popularity is very weird. It's like, I don't know why he's so popular.
And maybe it's something I'd get more if I was more into Dragon Ball, but just watching Father Goku in isolation and the episode Bardock, that kind of goes without saying. I was just like, he is really not that interesting. Like, I think his role as, like, setting up why Goku kind of standing out amongst the Saiyans as someone that actually has compassion thanks to Father Gohan. That he works in that respect. As a character by himself, he is really bland.
Yeah. Which is why I think that Father Goku works, but everything else with Bardock doesn't, because they try to give him more, like, deep character motives and, like, weird compassion, but, like, I don't know. I don't think it's good.
Yeah, and I think it kind of makes for a funny comparison with Nolan then, because, like, those same moments of, like, when Nolan finds some humanity is, like, given a lot more breathing room.
Yeah.
And also, you know, is it just a blatant thing they only did for toys?
Yeah, like, I feel like no matter your opinion on the character, I feel like it's inarguable to say that Nolan is better written than Bardock.
Yeah.
Of course, that doesn't instantly translate to actual character quality, but, you know.
Lord knows, I think we can both relate to having a few characters that we love that could have been better written.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, overall, the wait period itself is just kind of uneventful, so I think we could just skip straight to the analysis then, starting with Nolan's.
Yeah, what I thought when you messaged me about this was, alright, so a few characters this season were returners. Let's talk a little about Omni-Man versus Homelander as an episode, especially regarding to Nolan.
Yeah.
It is a good portrayal of him, but it's obviously relying a lot on pre-redemption Omni-Man.
Yeah.
And in that way, I think this episode is like a perfect continuation of that. It's not like immediately, there's no reason to watch Omni-Man vs. Homelander again, because they cover two very different parts of him as a character.
Yeah.
Which makes this almost feel like a sequel episode in that way, and I feel that's very they handle that very well, a lot better than a lot of returners get.
Yeah. Like, despite the fact that Omni-Man basically gained nothing as far as, like, abilities and whatnot are concerned, they still managed to keep it fresh by analyzing, like, even just the new feats that they brought up here that weren't brought up in versus Homelander, because, well, I think Omni-Man obliterated him hard enough without them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a cool evolution of his analysis in versus Homelander, even though it's still so weird that they're so averse to spoiling, like, anything that wasn't in the show yet.
Yeah, it is like how this is sort of a sequel to versus Homelander. It feels like they're setting up a third Omni-Man episode.
Just very funny because, like, Oh, also they gotta bring in to fight Omni-Man later, like fucking Rose Quartz.
I don't know, but maybe maybe there'll come something.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I don't know. Maybe they're setting up for whenever Mark gets an episode, and they can focus on the post-season 2 stuff then.
Who knows? I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Either way, it is a weird decision, but I'd still say, yeah, good evolution of like the analysis from versus Homelander, and something that really surprised me as well when I initially watched the episode was I was fully expecting there to be like a big cut in quality in the editing and whatnot because, you know, they're going independent now, but no, it was just as good as it was back in like season 10. Maybe even better, honestly.
I was just about to say, I feel like it's better now. Like the Death Battle has, ever since season 7, always been fantastic at editing comic book panels. But like there's just something different about it now. Like, specifically noting when they talked about like the Viltrum feats, the way the planets zoom around and like it looks like it's from an official animation, even though it's just a comic book panel that's moved, and it looks incredible.
Yeah, they managed to add like so much motion and kinesis to just static panels, which is really impressive. If we got more comic episodes this season, I would have loved to have seen like more of that, but I mean, this being the only one's definitely not something to complain about.
Yeah, that does give me a lot of hope for something like Kyle Rayner's analysis. Like I can
absolutely
imagine what that would look like.
Or even Hulk when Hulk vs. Godzilla happens.
Oh, there's gonna be a lot of green in that episode.
Oh yeah. So
yeah, Omni-Man analysis, very good. Very good.
Bardock then. This one's funny when considering what we were talking about earlier, how like we found Bardock in the actual series to just not have any aura, and then we watch this analysis and it's like they're hyping this guy up so much, which I can at least respect, if nothing else.
Yeah, like it's one of those episodes you watch and like, man, I wish the character was like how they presented them in the episode.
Yeah, it's not even like a prop. Oh, sorry.
It doesn't happen a lot. If anything, I feel like Death Battle often hypes a character down. But like, no, this was just like, wow, Bardock's really cool. Also, me watches Bardock. Wow, this guy's not cool.
And like, it's not at all a problem that they're making him out to be cooler than he actually is, because fine, I like take that any day over just taking the piss out of him, but no, it is just funny as hell.
Yeah.
Especially when they're trying to put like a good spin on stuff like Super Saiyan Bardock or Bardock being a good dad, when you look at like anti-Dragon Ball fans just fucking rolling their eyes at those writing decisions.
I do appreciate that they did include everything, because I will always prefer Death Battle covering everything about a character, even if it's something that a lot of people don't like. Like when they talked about the Ant-Man slap, like that's a lot of writers would just not mention it. But yeah. I like them talking about more controversial parts of a character's story and actually analyzing it. I feel like that's what makes the show interesting.
I would say as well that, like, the analysis in general was, like, I'm speaking to someone that's not, like, even really that fatigued over all the Dragon Ball we've gotten on the show, but I do think it was, like, nice to focus purely on, like, the DBZ era and the feats in them, because I don't think we've seen, like, a single feat in this episode in any other Dragon Ball episode.
No, I think so, yeah.
Which is funny, because you'd think the fucking King Vegeta thing would have been something they'd used before, but no.
I mean, we just haven't had a lot of characters that needed that when the you know the one.
Yeah, the Shockwave's in the corner.
Yeah. Because like I feel like the other character that we've had on the show that wouldn't scale to that is Roshi, and he had he was playing a Naruto character.
And he also has, like, the most blatant moon feat in existence.
Yeah, so, like, it is nice to get some new stuff.
Yeah. Although I will say as well, it is so funny that I've heard stories of people actually getting spoiled in fucking Danganronpa because of this analysis having the clip of one character dying.
Yeah, interesting editing choice.
Imagine getting spoiled on fucking DR through Bardock of all people. Yeah. So, all things considered, fairly good analysis, I'd say.
I feel like it's an alright analysis. Like, I'm not gonna think about it consciously, but if someone talks about it, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I enjoy that.
Yeah, I mean, they did the best they could with the absolute scattered mess that's Bardock's story, so points for that. I think I made a joke before as well, how, like, Omni-Man's analysis is just a straightforward line, Bardock's analysis is just fucking scribbles all over the place.
Oh yeah, I would have liked to see the writing process for this analysis. Like, oh, what do we put where?
So, if we're done with that, I think we can go straight to the fight then.
Yeah. It's good.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to go wrong with just two flying bricks slamming into each other.
Yeah, like, that kind of dynamic is something that Bell has perfected over the years. Like, it's not the most interesting, but you watch it and, like, you're having a great time.
Yeah. So, really, you kind of have to take, like, whatever bits of creativity you can, and I will say on that note that, yeah, if it wasn't obvious enough from, like, the reaction video, yeah, I'd pop the fuck off at, like, Omni-Man just swinging the great ape around by the tail and slapping him, because that is just perfect.
Yeah, that's fun. Like, stuff like that, and even just Omni-Man throwing the attack pod at Bardock, like, it makes things more interesting, because, you know, Omni-Man has the versatility of a fucking punching bag.
Yeah. I will say that
Bardock, I think, has some range attacks.
I will say on that note that if I did have to, like, say one thing that I was kind of on is, I know that part of it probably is just, like, model limitations and all that. I did kind of wish that they did get a bit more brutal in the fight, because it was kind of weird how, like, you have a Viltrumite and a non-Goku Saiyan, and they're surprisingly tame in terms of, like, the blood and whatnot.
Yeah, I have seen the storyboard for the episode, and there was supposed to be a lot more brutality. Like, Bardock was supposed to fuck up Nolan's leg and stuff, but, like, yeah, we can't expect a lot. Like, just doing stuff like that with 3D models in general is difficult, and especially when it's animated by one guy on a budget. I'll bet a big budget, but still a budget.
Yeah. I guess I wouldn't normally, like, complain about it, but as I said, Omni-Man's... most of what makes him interesting is, like, his character and his brutality, because his actual arsenal is literally just fly and punch.
Like, yeah, I feel like it's even more apparent because we've already had him on the show, and that's, like, one of the most brutal episodes we ever gotten.
Yeah. I guess some other, like, things I can say were kind of... I can definitely say, in some shots it looks perfectly fine, but Omni-Man's model definitely looks a little odd at points.
Yeah.
And I think under, like, certain lighting, it almost looks more like a wax figure than an actual, like, model.
Yeah, it's weird. He just looks kind of off.
Yeah. I think it's kind of one of those things where, like, they try to make it look proportionate to how he does in the cartoon, and, you know, some proportions like that just kind of don't look quite right in, like, a hyper-realistic setting. I get they couldn't use, like, the MK1 model, because that would have just looked ridiculous next to Bardock, but... God, could you imagine fucking hyper-realistic Omni-Man next to this fighter's Bardock?
I remember someone posting on the Death Battle subreddit, you know, the shot of them, like, the Mortal Kombat 1 reference shots of them, like, locking arms.
Yeah.
And you can see that, like, proportionately, Bardock's head is, like, 3 times as large as Nolan's. Because of the model differences.
Yeah, it almost reminds me of, like, how much Obito's model stands out like a sore thumb next to any of the Star Wars characters in Vader versus Obito.
Yeah, but like at least in an episode like that, the lighting is very dim and like there's a lot of special effects going on. Here, it just they spend a lot of time punching each other in this episode, so it is more noticeable.
It probably also helps, Vader's face is covered half the time.
Yeah, but like it doesn't look bad.
No. Really, most of the only other things I can really complain about with the episode are kind of nitpicks, like, why did Omni-Man say fuck at the end?
I think it's supposed to be a like, damn, I'm killing people again. Didn't want to do that.
Oh, damn, Debbie gonna be mad at me again.
It's very weirdly delivered. Like, I feel like in general, the writing in the episode isn't the best. Like, Bardock bragging about his sons. It's like, I don't think he'd do that.
It'd be kind of hard for him to do that when he barely even knows them.
Yeah, and even just Nolan going like, "Oh, you're like my son, sticking his nose in places he shouldn't." At that point in his like character arc is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's a shame too because the voice acting is absolutely like really solid.
Oh yeah, of course. Like Tom Shock, Omni-Man. Tom Shock in general is just one of the best voice actors they have.
Yeah, and like
Omni-Man is fantastic.
Yeah, he's scarily good at the J.K. Simmons impression. And Bardock's VA as well does like a great job too.
Yeah, like what he doesn't have in writing, he does like capture the aura of Bardock. Because I remember when we were watching it, we were just laughing at his voice in the
because like Goku's Japanese VA is like a legend for a reason. Voice does not fit Bardock at all.
Yeah,
like that is not a voice with aura.
This is what I imagine Bardock sounding like. He's a lot more rough, a lot more like nasally, meaner.
Yeah, Goku sounds like someone that would give me a friendly spark. Bardock sounds like someone that would beat me up in an alleyway.
Yeah, like especially his like Super Saiyan scream, very good.
Yeah, and same with like Omni-Man's "Your time is up," saying like that sounds like he's putting like every ounce of it into that punch.
Yeah, Tom Shock did a perfect like scary Omni-Man versus Homelander. Here he did a perfect like angry Omni-Man.
And I guess on the note of like comparing this to versus Homelander, I do love as well both just in general and how it contrasts with Diabolical Invincible Me, Solid State Invincible. I mean, there's not much of an improvement in names, but I love just the difference in vibes with how Diabolical Invincible Me sounds like so threatening, like you're about to fight a Dark Souls boss or something, and whereas this sounds like triumphant and it feels weird to say heroic considering the characters, but no, yeah, it does have that vibe by comparison.
Yeah, that's a nice touch.
Same with the lyrics as well, because like Invincible Me's lyrics, like they emphasize, oh, these two are gonna absolutely fuck you up, like they're forces of nature rather than heroes, whereas this one is almost more like, man, I killed people.
Yeah, it is a very good, more subtle writing. Because most people who watch the episode are not gonna listen to the song by itself. But it's very appreciative that they do small touches like that.
I mean, how the two songs even share lyrics, it's just delivered in a very different way.
Yeah.
Like when they say, you feel this threat because every step is like a mountain moving, something like that. In Dialogue and Invincible Me, it's like, yeah, I'm gonna mess you up. Here, it's like, I really messed up.
Even like just like the chanting afterwards. In the first one, it's pain, and in the second one, it's shame.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
So overall, I mean, it's definitely a good turn off your brain and just watch the fireworks go off type fight, I'd say.
Yeah, like if it wasn't for the sheer hilarity, which was the community response, I wouldn't think about it that often. But then there's the funny Sun disc and like, oh yeah, baby.
Yeah, on that note, post-analysis. Honestly, this post-analysis, I think, is so funny when you compare it to, like, other controversial ones we've had in the past, because I feel like the other points besides Sundisk are, like, so completely inarguable. Like,
Yeah.
I don't see a reality where you could argue against Bardock being faster and having better range, but Omni-Man having experience and adaptability.
I mean, it is so funny that for the entire wait period, people are like, okay, they're gonna give Omni-Man the speed advantage and Bardock the strength advantage, and then that got flipped.
Yeah.
But
And it's
yeah,
so fun.
like it is. They paint it so clearly. Like other episodes are where like, oh, they didn't bring this up. Oh, they left this in the black box. Now here, everything is laid out clearly and concisely. It is just one feat that was very weird.
Yeah. Or I guess 2 feats technically, but I think the comparison of, like, the planet busting for both is really funny when, like, it's easy to see why people would kind of look at one planet being blown up by 3 people and 3 being blown up by 1 people and be like, wait, how's the former stronger? But yeah, they brought up in, I think, Nolan's analysis how, logistically speaking, the one Omni-Man blew up would have to be like 14 times the size.
Yeah, they go very in depth on the Viltrum's size, but like the second feat is just, oh, by the way, King Vegeta blew up planets. Boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, it's a lot more straightforward and digestible. And then there's the fucking Sundisk.
Yeah, like when they start bringing astrophysicists into that, so that's when I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna argue with this.
I remember
This is
that,
not
like,
field.
yeah, I remember that, like, people were aware of the Sundisk feat, but they never really, like, touched it with a 12-foot pole because it was like, how the hell are we even supposed to calculate this?
I hadn't heard of it before the episode, but I remember that the G1 blog for it had it at country level, which is so funny to me.
Country
Like,
level
of course, I'm not gonna say if that's right or wrong, or if Deathbell's right or wrong, but I think it's just funny that the range is country to what large star.
Yeah. And it's even funnier that that's, like, the weakest winner of the season.
Oh boy.
But we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, I don't really have much stock on the Sundisk thing personally, but yeah, everything else is, like, completely fine, I feel. And even the Sundisk thing is definitely, like, out of all of the controversial, like, post-analyses, it's definitely up there as one of the better explained ones, I feel.
Definitely, like I can accept this.
Yeah, it's not something I just look at and immediately go, that's bullshit, mostly because I look at it and go, I don't understand what they're saying, so I'll just nod and agree.
I look at it and go, oh wow, my preferred character won. Nice.
Yeah. I really popped off when Nolan won.
I know, I saw the video.
It wasn't even, like, because, oh, he didn't get fraud checked by Bardock. No, it was just because I was fully expecting Nolan to lose, and I was very happy that he didn't.
Yeah. Like I remember you were talking during the wait period where like, man, I don't want this character. I really like to die to a character I don't like.
It wasn't even the character I didn't like part that was bumming me out. It was just, well, okay, I guess it was, but it just sounds petty when I hear it out loud, I guess.
Yeah, no, I guess a better way of wording is just, I don't want my preferred character that I really like to lose.
Yeah. Which, for the record, for the people watching at home, as long as you're not using it as an objective fault, nothing wrong in not vibing with a character you like dying to one you don't.
I feel like we've been very mean to Bardock. Like, we don't hate Bardock.
Yeah.
We just think he's like kind of boring.
Yeah. Like, I don't want this to sound spiteful towards him.
Yeah, no, like definitely not. Like, I don't think, like, if Bardock had won, I don't think our opinions on the episode would have changed.
Not really, no. So, I think that's basically everything we have to say on the episode.
Yeah, it's a good episode. It's a good return to form, and it was very exciting.
Yeah, I sure hope the episode after that is just as joyful. Yeah, right.
All right. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Joker versus Giorno. I don't think I've been very shy in saying that this was the most miserable 3 weeks of my time in this community. By a long shot. I'll try to keep it to a minimum because I know there are some people that just don't like hearing Persona versus get shat all over, but God, this wait period just kind of solidified in my mind that, wow, a lot of people just really don't see these two as characters so much as just their kids.
Yeah, I feel especially with Giorno, like at least, even if people were being annoying about Persona, at least people talked about Joker this wait period. Like
Yeah.
Giorno did not get anything outside of just Requiem talk, which is a shame. Like I know Giorno isn't the most interesting character, but he's still a character that people like.
Yeah, and
so try to be respectful about that.
Yeah, like I say this as one of the biggest Persona fans in the community. It genuinely drove me up the wall how people really just seem to only think of Giorno as like GER and no character attached. And the way Persona was getting treated didn't help Matt as much, because I've mentioned before that, like, Persona is a series that means a lot to me. I don't even know what the odds are I'd be around if, like, it didn't come into my life. I mean, hell, Futaba is a character that I usually wrap myself with because A, she's my favorite, B, she's a character I see so much of myself in. So 3 weeks of people just hyping the hell up of Persona being this uber-correct verse because of what I deemed was blatant misinformation kind of drove me insane. And it wasn't really helped by, like... It felt like half the conversation on Persona wasn't even talking about, like, how good of a series it was. Nah, it was just hyper-fixating on all the awful writing decisions as well, and it was probably the most... It feels weird to say, but it was probably the most, like, isolated I felt in a good long while, because it felt like I couldn't even talk about or, like, have a voice in the discussion, because if I said something I liked about Persona, it would just be drowned out by the vitriol. If I said, that's kind of bullshit in regards to the Versus stuff, people weren't gonna listen to me, and it was fucking miserable. Like, even now, I'll just be blunt. So much of the... Even now, I still get comments on, like, people hyping up Persona, and I'm just like, did you even pay attention to the story talk? Like, the amount of stuff where it's like, oh, these characters are strong because of random character you're not meant to take seriously saying the cosmology's like this, which is the most versus brain rot thing I've ever seen. Or even, like, fucking... My favorite example will always be, like, anytime people say, oh, but they resist this or can do that, and you look at the context and they very blatantly don't resist it, like people saying Joker could resist Maruki's reality warping when the entire point of the third semester is, oh shit, we're stuck inside his reality warping.
Even in the episode, they say that he couldn't resist it.
Yeah. It's so funny, too, because, like, people were saying the wait period was going to be awful because it was just going to be the toxic debate. And honestly, I think it was the exact opposite, where the fact that people were just completely fixated on Joker stomping was kind of what made it miserable.
Yeah, like, it's so... For the longest time, every time someone brought up this matchup, it's going to be like, oh boy, time to debate this again. No one knows who wins this. Oh, it's a 50-50. But then the moment it gets announced, everyone unambiguously goes, yeah, Giorno's dead.
Yeah, and for the record...
weird.
For the record, I don't even think Giorno wins by any means. And I think it's so funny that the reason why... I feel like the reason why it was so heavily contested was because people were too fixated on, like, how can Joker counter the death loop and get out of it and all that, when, I'll be blunt, he fucking doesn't. His answer purely lied in just almighty moves, just completely lol-noping that to begin with.
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, go on.
Joker is just one of those characters that has become so infamously like broken in a versus sense. Like the classic JRPG protagonist, has all the counters, has all the abilities to anything, you can't do anything, blah 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 blah. That people just say things that sound true. Like we've had a lot of talk about this about combo characters, where
Yeah.
people will just assume that they beat any of their matchups because there is a comic book herald. I feel like Joker is in that same boat where people just heard something once and go, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I remember a story that one of our friends, Starry, brought up of, like, in the Death Bell Judgment server, I think it was, they were debating Makoto versus Neku, and despite it being equal stats, everyone decided Makoto because they heard from someone that Makoto had plot manipulation, and I, as a Persona fan, can look at that and go, what the hell are y'all smoking?
Yeah,
It didn't even make sense narratively, like, come on! So yeah, moral of the story.
Do your research.
Yeah. And I want to say this as well. I'm not saying all this to just completely throw a blanket statement on like anyone that tries to research Persona, because who would have guessed a really big franchise that delves into a lot of esoteric themes. It's pretty unarguable that Persona is strong and that it has some like cracked shit, but like, come the fuck on.
I feel like just an important thing to think about is be careful with what you see online.
Yeah.
Like, if someone says something, don't just take someone's word for it. And if you research something, actually, like, take a second look over everything. Make sure you understood what you're looking at.
And also
things can be very easily misinterpreted.
Yeah, and also just think, does this actually make sense? Because I feel like Persona is so weirdly lax in terms of, like, standards, where if this was in any other series, people would have absolutely torn it apart, but with Persona, they just don't for some reason. Anyways, that's enough about me ranting about Persona and Versus. Let's just actually talk about the episode.
Giorno.
So, Joker's analysis. So, right off the bat, I can definitely say there are some, like, things I thought were kind of weird about the analysis. Mostly just, like, small stuff, but, like, first of all, one that always gets me was, first of all, pronouncing Yaldabaoth as Yaldabaoth. Whatever that was about. What is with Persona episodes and them just not pronouncing shit right?
I don't know.
Yeah, also, like, in the characters that Joker defeated category, first of all, they misspell Enlil and Samael as Enil and Samuel, which is just funny. And they also have Gilgamesh in there, which isn't even a character in Persona. Like, who invited Blood?
I can really comment on small tidbits like that. Like, I haven't played Persona 5. I will say, as an outsider, when I watch Joker's analysis, I feel like I get a good idea of what Persona is about. I don't get a good idea of what Persona 5 and specifically Joker is about.
Yeah, I will say that is, like, my biggest problem with the analysis is, like, Joker is a very blank slate character, so obviously I think focusing more on the general narrative of 5 is the better choice for, like, an analysis part. That was redundant wording. And to their credit, I do think, like, focusing on social links and whatnot was a smart move, but my biggest problem is they essentially give you how Joker started and what he can do. They don't really cover, like, the themes or where Joker ended up in Persona 5, and, like, to an extent, I get it. It's a 100-plus hour long game. But I don't think it would have been, like, that difficult to say, like, even why Joker was forming these social links or why he was a part of the Phantom Thieves and going against Yaldabaoth, because there is, like, a central theme with, like, the social links and how they're all people that have been, like, down on their luck because of, like, different societal problems, people just kind of kicking them while they're down, and they're supposed to be rising up against that, just like Joker and the rest of the Phantom Thieves. So it would have felt like a lot more natural of an inclusion if they tied that back in together.
Like, this episode is strangely short, which I don't understand. Like, I know that comparatively Giorno has a lot less going on, but, we'll get to that. I don't think Giorno's handled very well either. But, like, this is shorter than Omni-Man versus Bardock, when both characters have way more going on.
Yeah.
It's just weird.
And that even extends to, like, the characters they will bring up, because it is cool to see them, like, bring up, like, Ryuji on Akechi, Makoto, all that, but it's also weird how they don't bring up, like, Sojiro at all, or even, like, and I'm not saying this because of bias, it's where they don't bring up Futaba either, who I feel like are more intrinsically linked to Joker as a character.
Mm.
Or even Sumire, for that matter, even if she was not a part of, like, the original PF5, but that's beside the point. There are still, like, things I like about the episode, obviously. Like, as a Persona fan, I still got a kick out of seeing, like, all the personas being brought up, and the actual social link joke between Wiz and Boomstick was really funny. I did like that.
Yeah, I cracked a smile at that too. It was just very fun.
Yeah. It's just that there are, like, a lot of little things that I'm kind of about with the episode. Some, like, very minor, just, like, I don't know why that's there, and some more... this just feels like a weird thing to have.
Yeah, like, this episode... It's not really on the same level of this as something like Cole versus Alex, but it feels like they're going out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, which is kind of weird considering, like... Well, I forget if he wrote the episode or was just a research for it, but I know Ultra Guy worked on the episode, and he's, like, a big Persona fan, so... I don't know, maybe something just got lost in the writing room.
Who knows?
Who knows? I'm not gonna act like I know how production the show works.
Yeah, like... We know that this was supposed to be the premiere for season 11, and then obviously we don't know what happened between that time, like if this episode was still being written then, or if it was finished, and then they wanted to change some stuff. Like, we don't know that.
I think the only thing we do know is that between when Rooster Teeth shut down and sometime around when the Kickstarter happened, that production on the show just kind of halted because they didn't even really, like, have legal access to the IP at the time.
Yeah, regardless, Joker's analysis is weird. I feel like it's a good way of summarizing it.
Yeah, I'd say it's fine overall, but there's definitely, like, better ways to get a grasp on, like, what Persona 5 is about, because I think it explains well what Joker does in a fight. It doesn't explain great, like, what Joker and by extension Persona 5 is really about. And on that note, Giorno!
If Joker's analysis doesn't explain what Joker is about, then Giorno's analysis is not a Giorno analysis.
I will say
this is a Requiem analysis.
Yeah, I'll say off the bat, Giorno is definitely the character I'm the least qualified to really talk on out of everyone here. But that is something that, even when I was rewatching it for this video, that I did notice they went over, like, the start of Giorno's story and, like, his backstory and the end when he fought Diavolo and got Requiem. There weirdly wasn't, like, any coverage of the middle.
A lot of people will say that's because there isn't a lot that happens in Golden Wind relating to Giorno, which is true. This is the Bruno show. But even then, it's weird. I feel like one of the most important connections between Joker and Giorno is that they're more so supporting characters to their cast. Like, and they don't even friends are the most important thing to them, and Giorno doesn't, like, none of his friends get name dropped in this episode. Yeah,
it's so weird how, like, none of the characters in Passione get much time at all. Like, they don't bring up Bruno, they don't bring up Mista, Trish, any of them.
Which is super weird.
Like, they go out of their way to name, like, some of the fan names. I don't think it would have been, like, that out of the way to name drop a couple of them at least.
Because the most interesting thing about Giorno as a character is just the compassion he has for his friends. And if you're watching the episode, you don't get any idea of that. I remember when Nemesis talked about this episode, the idea he got from Giorno as a character in this was a loner, like, character, which is not true at all.
Yeah.
Like, usually Death Bell does a at least decent job at showcasing the character's personality, but like there is no Giorno in this analysis.
And it's so weird considering, like, we know that Death Battle, at the very least, like, whoever they get for the recent JoJo episodes fucking loves JoJo, so I don't know what went wrong here.
Yeah, like Dio versus Alucard and Jonathan versus Tanjiro are two of the most characterful episodes on the show. Then, like, what happened?
I don't know. And it's weird, too, because I do feel like the actual explanation of Gold Experience and Requiem's abilities are really solid. They give you a very strong impression of what Giorno does. So why the same love couldn't be extended to his actual character, I couldn't tell you.
Again, I don't know why the episode is so short. Like, 2 more minutes, and that could have been fixed.
Yeah. If I can't give, like, any praise to analysis, this is kind of a weird thing to comment on, but I did kind of like the general vibe of it. It felt very jazzy, mafia-esque type thing.
Yeah.
And around when Requiem showed up, like, the music and the general way Wiz and Boomstick talked about it gave it, like, such gravitas, like, oh shit, this is a big one.
Yeah, I love when Death Battle goes on tangents about how ridiculously powerful a character is, like when they did it with 4, and they just kept escalating and escalating and escalating. Requiem segment is perfect for that. Because Requiem is infamous for a reason, and they really, really hammer it in that this thing is a problem.
Yeah, although I will say, them basically implying that, like, King Crimson was universal is the most, you are trying desperately to make this sound close stats-wise thing the show has done in a while.
Yeah. But I get it.
I mean, I get it, like, as was kind of brought up in the fucking reaction, like, yeah, it was kind of hard to dance around the universal stuff in Persona when the final boss is literally a guy that merged the real world and Memento, so I don't know.
Yeah, like, I feel like the King Crimson thing is weird because I feel like they could have just said Made in Heaven is universal, which it isn't, but like if they wanted to, it is a more easily justification that King Crimson erases the universe for 10 seconds. That's not how King Crimson works. Yeah,
I will say as well that it absolutely jump scared me seeing Eyes of Heaven in there, but I do remember, like, some friends of mine that are JoJo fans kind of saying, like, no, yeah, that does make sense to include because Requiem otherwise has, like, 1 appearance and it's barely explained.
I'm pretty sure that Eyes of Heaven was also written by Araki.
Yeah, they say it in the episode that it was, I think.
Yeah, so why not? I feel like it could have been explained, like, verbally. But, you know, if people are that interested, then they can learn to read.
Yeah, there's definitely a difference between, like, using it to just give more context to Requiem instead of, like, I don't know, fucking scaling him to over Heaven Dio or something.
Like, I get the issue with it, like, this is more touching on the conclusion, but, like, the specific thing about the way Requiem couldn't affect the over Heaven Dio was kind of weird. Like, it feels like they're including games just to give him a weakness. That's not really what happened. They just wanted to explain further.
Yeah. So, I guess that's a good segue into the fight then. So, I wanted to say before we get into, like, anything about the actual fight quality, as a Persona, I know some of the, like, it doesn't touch on Persona, probably wouldn't, like, think twice about it, but as a Persona fan, looking at the skills they gave to Joker's Personas is so funny because what the fuck is up with some of these skill sets, man? Like, why does Joker have, like, 2 early game Personas that have the strongest skills of their spell types? Like, fucking Ice Age on Jack Frost is crazy. Like, that would be the equivalent of if you had a fucking Charmander on Death Battle and it had Blast Burn.
Oh.
Like, it's not a problem, it's just really funny to see.
That is funny.
So anyways, what can we say about the fight then? Well, off the bat... Oh, sorry.
Interesting.
Yeah, off the bat, like, obviously the visuals and music go absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But that's also kind of a given. It's Persona and JoJo. I think if I had to give, like... oh, sorry.
I was gonna say, the immediate thing that stands out, I will say I don't like the sprites.
Yeah, they're definitely rigged weird. Like, some scenes it doesn't look too bad, others it's, like, very noticeable, especially when, like, Giorno is running around, it does look very stilted.
Yeah.
And I will say, Requiem of a Thief is definitely a great song, but this is very nitpicky. Part of me also does kind of feel like it's not terribly distinctive. Not in the sense of, like, because I don't think it's bad in the sense of, like, it doesn't balance Persona and JoJo music well. It absolutely does. But, man, the amount of times that I've tried to recall in my head and I just end up reciting a different Persona track, or even a different, like, Joker versus track, like, Phantom's game, is insane.
Yeah, I can understand that. I feel it definitely feels more Persona to me. Like, I haven't listened to a lot of Persona music, but I have listened to Part 5 soundtrack, and there isn't a lot of it here. Of course, there is still some. Like, I really wanted at least one jaw in it.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of, like, Persona 5 riffs in there that I'm like, I'm glad this is here, but I've also heard this, like, 1,000 times. This doesn't sound distinct, and it probably doesn't help as well, that, like, Saoirse is, like, a great singer, by absolutely, but also, she's been used for plenty of Persona versus tracks, and sounds similar enough to the official one, which isn't a bad thing at all. Obviously, that would be kind of a weird thing to complain about, but it does kind of help. It doesn't help with making it not feel very distinct.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good way of saying it.
On the subject of the audio, then, the voice acting, I will say that Joker's VA does sound like pretty spot on to Joker himself. Joker isn't a character that obviously talks much, but if you at least have, like, that kind of theatrical feel, then you basically got Joker down, and he definitely sounds a lot like Xander Mobus as well, which helps. I can't comment too much on Giorno because I have not heard a ton of, like, Giorno's English voice, so how spot on it is, I'm not entirely sure. I have seen, like, some Joker fans not be a fan of it and think, like, Giorno had a bit too much venom, I think is how they would put it.
I will say, I didn't watch JoJo in English. I feel like Giorno's general cadence is off, if that's the right term. Like, he feels a lot more villainous in this episode than he should be.
Yeah, which I guess technically makes sense in the sense of, like, it's sort of supposed to be, like, his shadow in a weird way, which are usually, like, an exaggerated version of the character's worst traits, but at the same time, they're also not portraying it like that in the actual fight, so...
And even then, if it did, then that would just objectively not be Giorno in the episode then.
Yeah.
Which is a weird choice. Like, I get it, they needed a way for them to actually fight because of how their powers work. But it's just kind of weird. Like, it is Giorno. He definitely talks like Giorno, but he's a lot meaner than Giorno.
I do think, like, from what bits and pieces I have seen of Golden Wind, that they did capture, like, Giorno's aura during certain parts very well. Especially, like, during the Requiem sequence, like, yeah, you can definitely feel, like, him going checkmate at that point.
Yeah.
So what else can we comment on?
Well, I guess just the fight itself, like, the way it flows. I think it flows very nicely.
Yeah.
Like, the power interactions are very cool to see.
No, I will
And
say,
they get a lot of they get, even though it doesn't do a lot, they get a lot of good usage of the life manipulation.
yeah. I will say, though, it is funny. Again, not an actual, like, problem I take, but it is funny how, like, the way they use Die For Me doesn't work like that at all in the game. It's just a straight-up instant kill move.
No.
Whereas in the episode, it's just exploding teddy bears.
Well, oh well.
Again, it's just a small nitpick, not something I'm, like, seriously holding against the episode. It's just funny.
Yeah, I really like the bee, like the bullet bee transmutation and the way that comes back.
And I was also very happy that they turned the grappling hook into a snake. That was really funny.
Yeah.
I guess, like, one issue I can take is just, I do wish Joker actually got to use more of his power set. And not even just in the sense of, like, using more personas, just, I do wish he got to use more skills in general, because he only uses, like, Curse, Almighty, Ice, and, like, one physical attack that doesn't even hit Giorno. I would have at least liked to say, fucking, I don't know, maybe dropping a wind move like Vacuum Wave to deal with the giant vines or something, or even, like, using physical persona like Yoshitsune to cut through the giant trees.
Yeah, I feel like this is definitely an episode, a matchup that gets the classic death battle hurdle off. There's a lot that could be done with it.
Yeah. I haven't exactly been shy about saying that. I do value, like, a matchup where a wildcard user can make the most of their arsenal, so... it's not like the fight's, like, super worse off, it's just... I would have liked to see more of that.
Yeah.
If there's definitely one thing I can praise about the fight, even though the ending, like, is a very clear giveaway that Joker won, because, yeah, Requiem coming out before Satin Isle is the most Giorno's fucked moment imaginable. That ending is still absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it is definitely one of the strongest one in recent memory. I feel like everything from Requiem appearing into the actual killing blow is just amazing.
Yeah, especially, like, Joker, like, coming back through his bonds through the social links. And even, like, a small touch of the butterfly flying around, which, similar to Lavenza calling on Joker in the actual game to, like, rejuvenate him. That's a great touch.
I love the stand rush. It feels so painful.
Yeah.
And then the final punch, which is a perfect shot-for-shot remake of when he punched Diavolo. Very cool. Just dealing infinite damage. Like straight up, Giorno kills Joker with that punch.
Yeah. It is funny, though, when you know that Joker has, like, personas that null physical moves, but who cares?
Who cares? It looks cool.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing that I can point out, just a small thing. Again, it's not something that I'm, like, holding against the episode, because I'm aware it's mostly probably just down to sprite limitations, but Joker's mask not coming off at all when he summons his personas is kind of a weird thing. Because, like, yeah, the whole point is that the mask basically is the persona, and when he uses it, the mask burns away.
Yeah.
Again, sprite limitations, not gonna be too mad over it.
I also get that they just wanted him to have the mask, because that's how Joker looks.
Yeah.
But I feel like if anything, they could have removed it for when Saranel showed up.
Yeah. Because it definitely has, like, more aura when the mask is gone in the actual game, I think.
Yeah.
So, I guess we can move on to the post-analysis then.
I mean, yeah, it's the Joker's Giorno post-analysis.
Yeah. Well, I can definitely say thank you for not bullshitting a way for Joker to just bypass the death loop and saying Joker has literally been affected by this in the past. Fuck off. And
yeah,
there are problems I have with the post-analysis, but I think, like, the general reasoning of Almighty moves Requiem just does not have an answer to is, like, yeah, that's, like, the one good argument for Joker winning, so I'll take it. Even
I
if
really like how at the start of the post-analysis, they just immediately get away all the categories because, yeah, Joker takes all of them.
yeah, and like the only categories he doesn't take aren't even like because Giorno actually takes them, it's because Requiem just completely makes them null and void. Like, oh, cool, speed advantage. I act independent of time itself. Whoopsies.
It is just... It's the Joker versus Giorno post-analysis. It's exactly what everyone thought it was going to be.
Yeah. I mean, there are some stuff that I'm a little on. I'm not entirely sure if I would have used, like, the social links to argue, like, the willpower coming back, but at the same time, like, Tactical already, like, shows Persona users can't lose their willpower, so it's like, yeah, whatever. Whatever is more digestible, I guess. It's the reason I like, as much as I hate that they use the omnipotent orbits, also like, I mean, that's the best way you can really explain it, so fuck it. I think sorry.
Because even though I want the episode to be longer, I don't want it to be like 15 minutes.
Yeah. I think the only, like, actual issues I, like, really take with it are, first of all, calling shadows invisible is just straight up fucking stupid. Like, everyone and their fucking mother has seen a shadow in this series.
I feel like it's weird that they use that instead of just saying he has personas. Like,
or that Joker...
comparable?
Or that, like, a main mechanic in Persona 5 is Joker can use a third eye to see invisible things. And even in the actual clip they used to prove it, like, to put it into context, in Persona 3, shadows only appear, like, during the dark hour, and I feel like it's pretty clear once you know that he's not talking about shadows literally being invisible, it's just, you can't see them unless it's the dark hour, because they don't exist otherwise. And I think the only other one, this is a black box one, so not their main argument, not something that's, like, super egregious, but them arguing that the Velvet Room would help against Requiem because it could act as a safe haven because it's disconnected from time and space is, like, super weird to me because, like, yeah, Joker can retreat to it to escape Requiem, but, like, it can't transport him out of it. If he leaves the Velvet Room, he's just back in Requiem where he last left off. So, like,
yeah.
What was that
I guess it would be, like, he can go into it and, like, make a plan or something.
Which is funny, because what plan is he gonna make that isn't just almighty moves go? Yeah. Otherwise, it's about as good an explanation as you're gonna get for Joker winning, I guess, so...
Yeah.
Yeah. Part of me does...
Overall, weird episode.
Yeah. Part of me does feel like a lot of my judgment is being clouded by just Persona versus being the most miserable experience I've had, but even putting that aside, I think my overall verdict on the episode is that it's decent. Like,
I'll say, as someone who has no opinions on Persona versus, we have, like, basically the same opinions on this episode.
Yeah. Like, it's not like there's any one thing about it that, like, really super bugs me or bogs the episode down. It's just, like, a lot of little things that come together to just be like, yeah, I'm not sure if I'm, like, super happy with this. Especially with Giorno.
The one thing that really does bother me is Giorno's analysis. Because I like Giorno, I think he's cool. This episode does not make him cool.
Kind of like an inverse Bardock in that sense.
This episode makes Requiem cool.
Yeah. Like, it does a great job of explaining Gold Experience and Gold Experience Requiem, but it doesn't give you a great sense of Giorno himself.
Yeah, which is really not helped by the way the community treated Giorno.
And still do to this day.
Yeah. Like if there's a lot of episodes where the way the character was talked about, it helped people really connect with them and gave them a better understanding of them. This was not one of them, even though it really should have been.
Yeah. Which is really unfortunate.
Yeah, oh well.
Oh well.
I will say, the cut bonus scene should absolutely have been kept in the episode. I don't care what you say.
Yeah, and I know it would have probably been a big budget sink, but, like, Giorno getting affected by the mental shutdown but being repaired by Requiem, that was cool.
Yeah, that would have been really cool to see. please, Death Battle, if you have the ability to put more stuff like that in the episode, I will gladly wait longer for them.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about Buzz vs. Eggman now, or save that for the end?
I mean, it's next up, so I feel like it's only natural.
Alright. This is best thing this channel has ever put out.
Even before, like, Bowser vs. Eggman drops, honestly, probably one of just the best experiences for the community in general, I feel. You know, depending on the circle you're in. Like, if you had people taking the debate seriously, then it's fucking miserable, but you were gonna say something.
I think this is the best wave period I have ever been a part of.
Oh, same, absolutely. Like, and I think the contrast between it and how I felt on Joker vs. Giorno was like night and day, because Joker vs. Giorno, I felt like I didn't have a voice at all in the discussion, and it felt isolating. This just felt like I was part of like the biggest group of diehard Mario and Sonic fans I've ever experienced.
Making that blog was such a good idea.
Making that video was such a fun joyride.
Everything about this episode just makes me so happy.
Yeah, like, even just, like, the agenda posting was the funniest shit, especially when, like, so much of it wasn't even just people going like, my character wins, no, like, most of it was just people just having a fun time and loving the shit out of both characters.
Yeah.
Like, people posting about, like, fucking, I don't know, giant King Bomb blowing up in Eggman's face, like, that's not something that being used as a serious win con, it's just funny.
Yeah, like, exactly. It was someone posting about the metal virus and being like, aha, but you forgot Party Cleanser from Super Mario RPG, which cures all status effects. Like, that's some stupid thing that I love. This is what I love about the community, when it's just stupid.
Yeah, Bowser vs. Eggman is just the perfect example of that, because it's just like a combined 70 years of just the stupidest shit possible, and it was glorious. Like, bro, nobody is gonna take stuff like Bowser turning Yoshi's Island into a storybook as a serious win con, but, like, it's so stupid, it's funny.
I don't think there is... I don't think it's possible for me to recount every single thing about this wave period that made me laugh.
Yeah, and it was just the perfect love letter to, like, just two franchises that I wouldn't be the same without.
Yeah.
And I think that was only made, like, all the better when the reaction video ended up making my channel quadruple in subscriber counts, which still absolutely insane to me, and I'm forever thankful.
People like Bowser and Eggman.
People like Bowser and Eggman, including us. We were screaming a lot.
Yes, we were.
Bowser versus Eggman.
Like, I don't even know where to begin with talking about the episode. Like, it is just flawless in every way.
Well, we can begin with Bowser's analysis.
It is flawless in every way.
Like, it's funny that we were talking about Joker and Giorno kind of not covering as much as we really wanted for either. This covered basically everything you need to know about Bowser, even down to the stupid shit.
Like how we mentioned that Omni-Man's analysis was a sequel to his previous one. This analysis is just, hey, never watch Bowser vs. Ganon again. There's no reason to.
Yeah, I mean, part of that is just to focus on his army in this one, but, like, no, yeah, this is just the perfect, just next stage of Bowser vs. Ganondorf.
I think it's the funniest thing that Bowser vs. Ganondorf is completely obsolete now. There's no reason to ever watch it.
Yeah,
Ganon got one of the best episodes of the show, and Bowser got the best episode of the show.
Literally, the biggest contribution Bowser vs. Ganon has nowadays is just it being responsible for the modern research team.
Like, it is crazy.
Yeah. So Bowser's analysis.
It's just a great time.
Is there, like, a single thing that you absolutely have to know to understand Bowser that they didn't include in this episode?
I don't think so.
Like, they cover... Like, part of that is that Bowser is just an inherently, like, easy-to-understand character, but they go so ham with the details.
Yeah, they talk about his primary motivations. They talk about what makes him such a endearing character, despite like he could easily just be a simple villain, but no, Bowser has fun and lovable qualities to him, and they talk about it.
Yeah, vote just how sorry.
No, you can.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, both just how like diabolical and ridiculous he can be, but also just the fact that he's both incredibly silly and even kind of a weird family man in a sense.
Yeah. Like we're probably gonna go more into that in the conclusion, but it is very fun. Eggman's analysis paints his army as a very matter-of-fact legion beneath him. But in Bowser's analysis, they actually like talk about how there are more of a family to him. Like they didn't need to do that in the analysis segments. They could have just saved that for conclusion, but no.
Yeah, I think if you're like a diehard Mario fan, then this analysis is going to be an absolute dream for you to experience. Proof of that, our reaction where we were just popping off at the slightest mention of even the most obscure Mario character. Like, who else do you know that's going to, like, have a pop-off seeing Cool X named?
It is just that they brought out everything I could have wanted them to bring up.
They brought up, like, stuff as completely nonsensical and as insignificant as, like, again, the storybook thing or the never-ending staircase. Like, that has no reason to be there, but it is. And it's also not at the expense of, like, actual important stuff, so I love that it's there. Like, that shows that they, like, wanted to cover everything about Bowser.
Like, it is just... I've mentioned this before, but I feel like this is the ultimate, like... ultimate end point to my childhood obsession, because I was crazy for Mario as a kid and growing up.
Yeah, same.
So I think I recognized every single clip in this analysis, and nothing could have made me more happy.
Yeah. And the same can be said for Eggman, moving on to him. Like, even just without all the fanservice stuff, this analysis does such a great job of just establishing how much of a diabolical threat Eggman is.
I honestly think it's even better than Bowser at talking about his personality.
And it does a great job as well of, like... One of my favorite things about it is they spend so much talking about how Eggman is so diabolical and how he's such a great contrast to Sonic, who's, like, free-spirited, all about freedom, and Eggman is, like, all about subjugating people and leading an army that bends to him. And then at the end they talk about how Sage was like the one time he was like, maybe free will is a good thing. But they don't shy away from the fact that, no, that didn't make him a good person, he's still an ass.
No, I love that. Like, normally it could have ended like, oh, well, maybe there's still hope for him as a person, but then they're like, no, this is Eggman.
Yeah, and like, normally that'd feel like very dismissive, but no, for Eggman it's like, it's the perfect summation of his character.
And just like, again, just like the Bowser analysis, all the stupid little things that they didn't need to include.
Lightman.
Like, the fucking Lightman reaction's gonna live rent-free in my head forever.
I just love how... My favorite thing about that is just the complete and utter befuddlement that it was even there. Because it was a single image from, like, a calendar that was too recent to even reasonably be in the episode, but nope, it's still there.
The moment they said planet's consciousness,
which is a thing,
like all of us exploded.
Look, that was the hardest I'd ever heard Chris pop off that wasn't like, oh, it's a win.
Stuff like the fucking time stones, the jewel
time
detector, time meter, like even Agent Stone just being in his like family section, like that's fun. That's fun. I love that.
Yeah, it's just like what I was saying for Bowser. Like, if you're a Sonic fan, this is like eye candy for you. Like, and it's so funny how like previous Sonic episodes had a bit of a mean-spirited tone to them when talking about Sonic. This one just feels like they poured so much love into the franchise for it.
Yeah.
Like, the difference between this and, say, how they talk about Shadow and Mewtwo vs. Shadow is so night and day.
Yeah, it is just... There's nothing to complain about.
It really isn't, no.
Like, across both analyses, amazing editing, amazing writing, custom sprite animations.
Yeah, and, like, those, like, end cards with the game over thing, like, they did not need to put those there, but I'm so happy they did.
Yeah, the focus on the characterization all the way through.
God.
An episode would be lucky to get one of these things.
You can tell that they made the absolute most of this episode being so long.
Yeah.
And on that topic, the fight.
This is the best thing this channel has ever put out.
I'll just say straight up, like, I think Fury Bowser is probably the best piece of animation in Death Battle history, just by itself.
This was made by one guy.
Moro's not human. That is not human.
This was made by one person.
I said in the reaction as well that, like... Yeah, I said in the reaction as well, if you told me that a big-budget studio animated Fury Bowser, I would have believed you in a heartbeat. Like, that is just so insanely smooth and fluid.
This entire animation looks flawless. Every model looks phenomenal. There is no stuffiness in it. There is no party animation in it. It all looks amazing.
Yeah. Like... And all of this is even considering, like, just the amount of stuff that they even have in there. Like, all of the armies, all the minions, all of that. And nothing about it looks like they were cutting corners.
And this fight is only 4.5 minutes long. It feels like 20.
I love how we say only 4.5 minutes, when that's, like, pretty freaking lengthy by Death Battle standards.
Yeah, like, it feels like it's 5 times as long, in the best way
ever. Like, the difference between this and, say, Gojo vs. Makima, where they were cutting corners like a paper snowflake, is so night and day. It's crazy.
What is there to say that hasn't been said?
It's a very good question, considering, like, at this stage, people have just broken down every small little detail as to why this animation is so close to perfect.
Yeah, like... Again, is there anything to complain about?
Well, I guess there's, like, very minor stuff, but we'll get to that in a bit. For now, I'll definitely say, like, the characterization is so on point for both of them.
Oh, yes.
Like, if there's one detail I greatly appreciate, it's how Eggman throughout the fight is, like, nearly always in control of his army and issuing them commands, whereas with Bowser, like, he's like lending a hand to them instead of bossing around, and anytime like his minions are acting, it's almost always because they're actively trying to help him. Like when Super Neo Mel Sonic is attacking Fury Bowser, he puts up his guard, he's about to take him on, but Bowser Jr. steps in the way voluntarily.
Yeah, like, Bowser runs in with his army and attacks Eggman directly. He protects his army from infinite gravity manipulation. He does his best to, like, get rid of the Phantom Ruby immediately because he knows, oh, that's gonna be a problem. That killed a bunch of my guys. I don't like that at all. Like,
and he even, like, jumped in front of the Death Egg.
Yeah, like, he doesn't send anyone out. After ordering into battle, he goes ahead of them every stage of the way.
And the contrast with that, sorry. Meanwhile, the contrast between that and, like, Eggman, where I think the only times, like, his minions ever act on their own accord is, like, the seldom time that Metal Sonic or Sage would, aka his most trusted compatriots. Everyone else is, like, entirely within his command.
Yeah, like Eggman isn't even on the battlefield for half the battle.
Yeah. And even then, he's still, like, when the Death Egg is turned into a brick, like, he still is like, oh shit, it's Sage already?
But it is a great touch that after Metal like ratios Bowser, only then does Eggman come in, because he's like, oh yeah, Metal took care of that guy. Of course he did. That's my boy. He's dead.
Like, they do a great job of, like, making Eggman feel like the chess master, whereas Bowser is just the brick.
Yeah.
And I think the voice acting as well definitely helps that. Like, Eggman, even though, like, Mike Pollock's voice is, like, very iconic to me, I absolutely appreciate the decision to make him sound more like the Dean Bristow Eggman, because he still has, like, that goofy air to him, but he sounds way more diabolical, and I think it fits perfectly with how he's portrayed in the episode.
I'm gonna say, I think Zach Watkins has the best Bowser voice ever.
Oh, absolutely. Like, not only does it sound, like, completely like him, but as you've said before, like, it's very hard to make a Bowser voice not sound goofy as hell, but no, he's perfectly on point with it.
Like, the delivery of the Showtime is my favorite delivery of anything in that battle.
Yeah.
It
and
is
also
better than the official voice clips.
it even, like, captures Bowser's talking as well. Like, one of my favorite lines is "You call this an invasion force? You've seen toads do better." Like, that's just perfect.
Like, not until Junior gets hurt does Bowser, like, actually get angry.
Yeah.
And when he does, he ends the fight immediately.
And then there's when he's Dry Bowser and Eggman's like all by himself, that he breaks out the cockiness again with the "So long, Doctor." Like, that's beautiful.
Like, this, every time that I think about Bowser, I'm gonna think about this episode now, because this is the perfect representation of how Bowser should be in anything.
Yeah. And we haven't even brought up, like, the score either. Game over.
Oh, dude, Game Over? I listen to this, like, every day.
Same. Like, it's so funny that... Bear in mind, I haven't played Bowser's Fury yet myself. I've been told that when Fury Bowser is on screen that the music for that is, like, hard rock. So when I first heard the track for this, I was like, okay, like, a Devil May Cry style track for a Mario episode is really funny, but, I mean... It still feels very, very fitting for the tone of the fight, and it just slaps in general, so I don't care.
If you had told me that this was a Mario song, I wouldn't believe you. But then if you show me the scene of Fury Bowser and the Death Egg Robot preparing to punch each other in the middle of a thunderstorm with this playing in the background,
God,
like, that shot alone.
That shot is... Like, I drew that shot myself, like, as fan art. That's how much I love that shot.
I think that shot alone is better than anything else from this year.
Yeah.
Oh, like, it is unfair. It is unfair how good this episode is.
I think, like, the only thing that isn't, like, a nitpick that I can complain about is... Yeah, I do wish that Eggman himself got to do more, because... I'd still, like, lump in what the decoy did with Eggman himself. He got off, like, 3 attacks throughout the fight, and I feel like, on the one hand, Eggman is more of a chess master than a wrecked fighter, so it makes sense, but... I don't know, I would have at least maybe, like, had him fight a bit more in the Death Egg Robot still, but... oh, woe is me, this episode has a single flaw, how could it? Now I can't appreciate how it's peak fiction in every other compartment. Sorry, go on.
Even then, we know that there was at least at some point a plan for that, because there's finished storyboards of him fighting in the Death Egg Robots.
Yeah.
So, like, they were intending to put that in the episode at some point, so goodness me, the one complaint I have wasn't supposed to be there.
What? You're telling me even this episode had to make some budget cuts?
No way! It doesn't feel like it when I watch it.
Yeah. Like, you look at the Fury Bowser thing, and it's like, this was done by an independent show.
This was made by a group of people who didn't have any money 2 months ago.
God, I think about the fact that this fight was initially supposed to be in Season 10, and I just think, if this released then, it would have been, like, held together with duct tape.
And this was made by one person!
Morrow, how are you human?
Like, how? It doesn't make sense.
Gosh.
Like, I cannot overstate this enough. This is the best thing this channel has ever or will ever put out.
Yeah, like, there's definitely episodes that match it in terms of, like, being big love letters or just being, like, structured perfectly, but I don't think there's anything that's just as big an accomplishment as Bowser vs. Eggman. Like, I could reasonably see... Yeah, I can reasonably see, like, another Versus show on the same level accomplishing something similar to Bill vs. Discord or Goku vs. Superman 3. If you told me another one came even close to Bowser vs. Eggman, I think I'd have an actual stroke.
Yeah, and it is rare that everyone agrees about it. There's not a single person that disliked this episode that I've ever seen.
Yeah.
The community feedback has been insane.
The amount of fan fiction and fan art that's come out of this is just insane. I have never seen this community more united for an episode. Even with, like, Bill vs. Discord or Goku vs. Superman 3, two other episodes that are just held as the peak of Death Battle. They still don't get this much appreciation.
This is the community at its strongest.
Yeah.
And it makes me so happy to see.
Same. We haven't even gone over the post-analysis yet.
The post-analysis is the one part that is weaker, because it does really pain the ass of Bowser's Stomp.
Yeah, I do think that is, like... I'm not a super huge fan of, like, the new post-analysis style where they kind of break it down into categories, because I feel like that does kind of inherently lead to some more lopsided signing results, including in this one.
Yeah. Like, I understand it for, like, complexity, say, for some matchups, but I feel like it's a case-by-case scenario, and I feel like they could have painted it as more fair. But, like the intelligence factor was just thrown in to give Eggman a bone.
Yeah.
And like they give them a tie in trump cards, but everything they say in the trump cards category is just, oh, Bowser's better in every way.
Yeah, I think literally the only one where they actually say they're tied is with their, like, biggest trump card with the Grand Stars and the Chaos Emeralds, where they basically said there's more Grand Stars, but the Chaos Emeralds have, like, more impressive feats.
Yeah, they say that's a tie, but in that same category, they talk about how the Wonder Flower is objectively better than the Phantom Ruby, and the Dreamstone can just negate anything Eggman has.
Yeah.
So that's kind of weird.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I still think they get most of the general points, like, pretty spot on. Like, yeah, Bowser is, like, generally more impressive stats-wise than, like, most of Eggman's mechs that are, like, the Time Eater and stuff. Bowser just has, like, basically all of his arsenal in one instead of spread across all his mechs, and my favorite thing about the post-analysis, absolutely, with the explanation, is them going into the difference in how they lead their armies, because I just love the comparison of how Eggman, he's all about controlling his army at once, and when he tries to ally himself with others, his ego is always getting in the way. Bowser's army is just like, no, we follow you because we just actually like you.
And it is so genuinely euphoric to watch that, because that is everything we said.
Yeah. And I think it's made all the better by, in another case of, how is Morrow a human being? The fucking alternate scenarios.
Yeah, he did those in 2 days.
That was a last-minute addition.
He was like, hey, should I add these? And like, if you can, alright, they're done.
And, like, these include stuff as, like, recent as fucking Wonder Bowser and Lightman.
Yeah, like, how?
And there's so...
Have you seen the Dreamy Bowser model he made? It looks amazing.
The Time Eater, too! The Time Eater
screen for 1 second!
God, he did not need to go that all out, but it just adds so much to the episodes. Like, I think our opinions on the episode would have been, like, about the same if they weren't there, but the fact that they are, and they're just in general so great at illustrating their points is, like, I love that.
Look, it is what we said about the analysis, that they didn't need to go that hard, but they wanted to. And that is what makes the difference.
I think that just in general is what makes Bowser vs. Eggman feel special, is that it just feels like it's dripping from every orifice with passion for both series. Like, more than, I think, any Mario vs. Sonic episode combined had.
Comparing this to Mario vs. Sonic 2 is like...
It's like comparing It's like comparing a chocolate cake to a crumb.
Like, it is insanity.
Yeah.
There are no other words to call Bowser vs. Eggman other than insanity.
This feels like the kind of episode that you'd read a really good fan script of and be like, oh, that's really cool, but Death Battle would never have the budget for this, and then to just make it anyways, and it's like, well, shit, never mind.
Yeah, this gives me the hope that stuff we say isn't gonna happen will happen. That Kyle vs. Simon will be that good. That Mickey vs. Buck can happen, and it will include everything. And that Whiz vs. Boomstick, when it comes, will be a climactic finale for this show.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, regardless of your feelings on certain episodes, Death Battle has definitely gotten better recently with just general consistency in episode quality, and Bowser vs. Eggman is just the epitome of, it's never impossible that Death Battle can, like, deliver.
Yeah, and if you ever doubted that just because they're independent now, the quality's gonna go down, well, it very fucking obviously didn't, did it?
Do we have an episode for you?
God, there's an endless supply of love that I can give this episode.
Same.
Anyways, Among Us.
Among Us. I think the wait period for Among Us vs. Fall Guys compared to Bowser vs. Eggman is honestly hilarious, because I think a lot of us expected this to just be another shitposty wait period, and then nothing really happened.
All that happened is that we played Among Us more often.
We played Among Us more often. We played it once.
No, we played it a couple times.
Well, I only got like one game in. Or session, I should say.
Yeah, and hey guys, watch the Among Us video.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, funnily enough...
it makes sense that there's just not a lot to say about Among Us versus Fall Guys.
What? You're telling me a mostly shitposty matchup that has, like, no depth to it doesn't leave a lot for discussion? Would have never guessed.
What a shocker.
Yeah, I think
we didn't even know how they were gonna handle the episode. We knew nothing.
Yeah. I think the most I really did during that wait period was just spend like a week or two getting like all my friends into my favorite anime, Rose and Maiden. Watch it, please. I need to spread the agenda.
The entire wait period was just the post-Bowser clarity.
Yeah.
We were still talking about Bowser vs. Eggman.
Yeah, like, to put it in perspective, like, I took notes on, like, stuff I wanted to talk about with each segment for this video. My notes for the analyses for these for this episode is it's like 2 sentences long each. Like, it's enough.
Notes.
You're generally better at remembering things than I do, I feel.
Yeah, I'd say so, yeah.
Anyways, Among Us.
Among Us. I like this analysis.
Yeah, it was fun.
I remember when the preview dropped and we were watching it and we're like, oh my god, this is amazing. And then the rest of the analysis wasn't amazing, but it was still good.
Yeah, like there was definitely some cute gags in there. Like the emergency meeting.
Yeah, the emergency meeting, I'm so happy it was kept in the episode, because it's like, they don't do a lot with Ringmaster, Jocelyn, and Dummy anymore, and that makes me a little sad, because I like them. So this was very fun. This
was definitely a great use of them, although playing Among Us makes that scene really funny, because they have 2 imposters and 5 players. Like, that's insane.
Yeah. Also, I'm just gonna say, I called it that Jocelyn was the imposter. So, I'm better.
Also, Henry Stickmin jump scare.
Oh yeah, I mean, it was just fun to see Among Us being covered. Like, even though I'm not a huge fan of the crossover aspect, which we'll get to, but even
Yeah.
then, like, just talking about the fucking stupid things that Among Us has been a part of.
Or the
Like, it's
planet-busting
fun.
eagle.
Like, it's fun. Like,
Mm. I remember we were getting really excited when they also covered just a lot of general aspects of Among Us gameplay, like the Guardian Angel and stuff.
Guardian Angel, let's go.
Guardian Angel.
People who don't know be like,
People who don't know.
but yeah,
And
no, it's like it's an Among Us analysis.
yeah. And part of me does kind of wish that there was more of, like, the creeping dread factor in it, but at the same time, it's also Fall Guys vs. Among Us. I'm not expecting, like, fucking The Thing level horror.
Yeah, like it is kind of tempered by the matchup being against Fall Guys, because you kind of have to match the Fall Guys-ness of Fall Guys.
Well, to be fair, Fall Guys are pretty horrifying based on their analysis.
Like, Fall Guys brings an energy to things. You really
Yeah.
need to match it, so it makes sense.
Yeah. And speaking of, what the fuck is the Fall Guys?
Yeah, while the Among Us analysis got less interesting as it went on, the opposite is the true Fall Guys, because they made this very fun.
Yeah. I just love how they just made the most of Fall Guys being the most information overload thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Like, these are not...
What is there to say? It's just Fall Guys.
What the fuck is the Fall Guy, man?
Who knows?
They
I
fucking
don't
eat
want
through
to
their...
know.
They eat through their
They
feet.
eat with their feet?
Oh... I don't even know if I can call that the writer's barely disguised fetish. That's just... Why?
That's just not right.
That's I guess
just
that does,
Fall
like...
Guys.
I guess that does lead into, like, the one negative of the analysis just being, like, yeah, they definitely hype up the Fall Guy infinitely more than Among Us, but at the same time, like, what do you want them to say about this?
Yeah, like the whole episode kind of feels Fall Guys heavy, but like it's, I'm not gonna get worked up over Among Us versus Fall Guys.
Yeah. And I guess on that note, the fight itself,
It's pretty good.
it's Among Us versus Fall Guy.
It's fun.
I guess some immediate things I can say, the gore was definitely a bit much, I feel.
Yeah, like I don't know why Deathbell likes gore that much.
You just that, like, gore in relation to characters that don't even, like, get that gory, because even in Among Us, it never goes beyond, like, a cartoony blood splash or something.
Yeah, it's just
It felt
I get
too
what you're
excessive.
about it. Like, it doesn't bother me personally, but like, yeah, it's definitely like
It's just a bit jarring.
probably better to not do that.
Yeah.
Especially considering that this is an episode that kids are definitely gonna watch.
Yeah. Granted, I think the kids would have been horrified by the Fall Guys analysis already, but that's... and it is, like, as well, that I wish there was just generally more Among Us stuff in the actual fight as well, because I get it. Fall Guys is definitely the more action-oriented, quote-unquote, of the two games, so it makes sense to focus more on the, like, Fall Guys gameplay, but it did feel, like, kind of disappointing that all the Among Us stuff was just in the sneak peek.
Yeah, like we didn't get a single venting in the episode. Like, come on, that's the thing.
Yeah, like, part of me does kind of feel like... I know this is, like, a very blanket criticism, but it does feel a bit shoehorned in. Like, if you're gonna have Among Us gameplay in there, go all the way, I feel.
It is just like I said, it's definitely the Fall Guys episode more than the Among Us episode.
Yeah.
Because like half of it is Fall Guys and half of it is crossover stuff, and then Among Us just doesn't get a lot.
Yeah, and I think even with the crossover stuff, I think it makes sense progression-wise to like save all of that for when things just go absolutely off the rails, but yeah, I still can't say I'm like super huge on them just going full cosmic at the end. I do kind of appreciate like they still kept like some of the Fall Guys gameplay in there with them hopping across the asteroids, but I would have at least like maybe preferred if the crossover stuff was maybe just them using unique ways of traversing obstacle courses.
Like, yeah, I feel like the only real cosmic stuff in there was just the planet slicing, which, hey, that is a thing that they did do, so whatever, I guess.
Can't blame Death Battle for just taking what was there.
Yeah, like, it's not just, oh, he used the power sword, which is universal, so he blew up the universe. Like, they did keep it to what the characters have done.
Yeah.
But even then, I would have liked it to be more grounded.
Yeah. Because as I said before, like, we've gotten so many episodes that are just, lol, what if we just had these, like, super silly characters doing something fucking insane? And it's like, yeah, sure, okay, I've seen that a million times.
After the 12th time, kind of gets old. Like,
yeah.
Everyone just wants more down-to-earth episodes in general. And, like, I get it. It's Among Us vs. Fall Guys. Don't take it too seriously. But, like, it's just kind of fatigue with those kinds of things.
Yeah. I do think... Otherwise, the episode is just another one of those where it's like, it's easy to just turn off your brain and just have fun. Because the episode is obviously just trying to be more silly and enjoyable than anything you're supposed to give serious thought to.
Well, of course, it's a good episode. Absolutely. Like, I enjoy watching it.
Yeah, and it's very well animated, too.
Of course, like, it is... The majority of it is hand-drawn. So, like, that's just immediate prop. That's very cool.
Yeah, and there are some, like, very cute visual gags in there, like when the imposter's trying to stab the Fall Guy and it's just not penetrating, so he stabs his own hand and has a delayed reaction.
Yeah.
But that was
also,
funny.
Also, Imposter X Fall Guys, yeah, way cool.
I love how that spun for this episode. That was so funny. Yellow Fall Guy X Blue... Yellow Fall Guy X Blue Crewmate.
That's my OTP.
Yeah.
I also like how much of a menace the Red Imposter was. Like, he was devious that entire fight. They gave so much personality to him.
And I did like as well, even if it did make it obvious that the Fall Guy was going to win, fucking, like, little flashback, or flash forward, I guess, that the Fall Guy had when he was about to get snatched up by the imposter was really funny.
Yeah, it was. I do like it. I feel like it's fine because it happened, like, literally right before the killing blow, so... Yeah. Yeah,
it felt like a SpongeBob gag, almost.
It did. It was also just... The whole episode is just charming. Charming, fun, stupid, being fun.
And I think that extends even to the post-analysis to a degree, because... Yeah, most of what they're talking about is just, like, the stupidest fucking feats imaginable that they would never consider under any other circumstance, but it's Among Us vs. Fall Guys, so, like...
Like we said in the Bowser segment, this is an episode that did not need the categories.
Yeah. Especially since there was much less of them than normal. There's only 3 compared to the usual 5, because it's Fall Guys vs. Among Us. Like, what's there to say?
Also, Pac-Man, I hate you.
Yes. Pac-Man WinCon is so funny. Like,
but yeah, it's Among Us and Fall Guys.
Among Us versus Fall Guys.
Among Us versus Fall Guys. What a good episode.
It's very funny. And it's also incredibly funny that this incredibly silly matchup then gets preceded by Kratos versus Asura.
Yeah.
This has such SpongeBob versus Aquaman before Jason versus Michael energy.
It's sandwiched between Bowser versus Eggman and Kratos versus Asura.
That's wild. I just love how this is like the first time in years that we've gotten 3 video game episodes in a row, and it's Bowser versus Eggman, Kratos versus Asura, and right in the middle, Among Us vs. Fall Guys.
Two of the most beloved matchups in Death Battle history, and Bowser vs. Eggman.
Knew that was coming. So yeah, I feel like we have like fairly similar rankings for where each episode goes in a top four.
Let's do a thingy. Let's count down from 3, and we'll say our bottom place.
Yeah. So 3, 2, 1. Joker versus Giorno.
Joker versus Giorno. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it's not a bad episode, but it's definitely the one that, like, out of all of them, I'd be like, I don't want to revisit this.
It
compared
is
to
the
rest.
only episode that I have a major issue with one part of the episode.
Yeah. Alright, let's see if next up is the same. I feel like if this one's the same, then, like, that just confirms that we have the same opinion. 3, 2, 1. Among Us versus Fall Guys.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, this one's just a pure turn off your brain and have a good time moment. It's nothing with, like, much depth to it to analyze.
Yeah.
Which, as I said before, like, it makes it a charming episode, but it also doesn't make it one that, like, I'm gonna think about much.
No, exactly. It is a momentary distraction, but, like, when I'm itching to rewatch the Death Battle, it's not gonna be this one.
Yeah. And then after that, obviously, Omni-Man vs. Bardock, just kind of generally solid all around.
Yeah, it is like the ultimate 8 out of 10.
Yeah, and I think it's made better in the context of just kind of being the return to form for Death Battle after we were kind of scared for the entire show's, like, life, really.
Yeah, it is definitely. It's always gonna have a special place for me because watching it just gave me comfort that, okay, the show's fine. They're still doing great.
Yeah.
This is a good episode. The editing is great. The fight looks great. Death Battle is okay.
Yeah, like, if the episode didn't come out great, then that would have just been bad PR.
Yeah.
But no, it came out, like, very solid, so that's just perfect reassurance that Death Battle wasn't going anywhere. And then at the top, like, of course, it's Battle vs. Eggman. Like, that's just the biggest. That's one of the biggest accomplishments in Death Battle history.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing holding this back from being my favorite episode of all time is very, very deep-rooted nostalgia for Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, same with me and Fire Emblem for Gods vs. Meiji. Like, when it takes, like, when the only thing keeping this from being, like, the top spot for both of us is just, like, inherent nostalgic bias. I think that's a pretty good summation of, like, just how high quality the episode is.
Yeah, I've said it numerous times. Objectively, this is the best thing on the channel. We peaked.
Yeah. It's all downhill from here, folks. Sorry to say.
That's right. Death Battle will never be good again.
Yep. Sorry, folks. Ash vs. Yugi's gonna be a minute long.
They cancelled Sile vs. Sile? Oh my god, they cancelled my ability to speak. They cancelled Kyle vs. Simon. It's over.
Ruby vs. Maka is just gonna be them playing a trading card game. No actual fight. Moral of the story. Moral of the story. Watch Bowser vs. Eggman again. This is an order.
Moral of the story? The CIA killed John F. Kennedy.
Moral of the story. Among Us.
Put a picture of Plate on the screen.
Okay. Well,
right,
thanks for joining me. This was really fun.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy you asked me.
Yeah, and this is gonna sound really cheesy, but just thanks as well to everyone for making this channel grow. I would have never taken this channel seriously at all otherwise if just the Bowser vs. Eggman reaction alone didn't pop off so hard. Like, not even just because, like, it was so successful, also just because it was a perfect showcase of just how passionate we can be.
Watch the Among Us video.
Watch the Among Us video. So yeah, here's to 2025 being more of what you guys love and what we love doing.
Alright, guys, let's get... How many subscribers are you at now?
Like, 700.
Alright, guys, let's get this channel to at least 10,000. Right? No, higher than that. 100,000. There you go.
One day we will surpass Nemesis Bloodrite.
That's the goal. before 2026, we are surpassing Nemesis Bloodreich. Tell him about this.
We will be the next competitor.
Yeah, this was fun.
This was fun. So, thanks everyone for watching. Bye.
Bye.